At the end of a quiet street in a small town stood an old wooden library. The building was not very big, and many people walked past it without noticing it. The paint on the walls was faded. The windows were a little dusty, and the sign above the door was slightly crooked. But for those who entered, it was a magical place full of stories, dreams, and knowledge. The library had been there for more than 50 years. It was built by a teacher named Mr. Robert Hayes, who believed that books could change people's lives. When he was young, he did not have many books, but whenever he found one, he read it carefully and imagined the worlds inside it. Later in his life, he decided to build a small library so that children in his town would always have books to read. After Mr. Hayes passed away, the library was taken care of by a kind woman named Mrs. Clark. She was in her 60s, with silver hair and warm, friendly eyes. She loved books just as much as Mr. Hayes did. Every morning she opened the doors at 9 o'clock and greeted anyone who came inside. One afternoon, a boy named Daniel walked past the library on his way home from school. Daniel was 12 years old and usually spent his time playing games on his phone or watching videos online. Reading books was never something he enjoyed. That day, however, it started to rain heavily. The wind blew strongly, and Daniel had nowhere to hide. The closest place was the small library at the end of the street. He ran toward the door and stepped inside quickly. Inside the library it was quiet and warm. The sound of rain tapping on the windows created a peaceful atmosphere. Rows of wooden shelves were filled with books of every color and size. The smell of old paper and wood filled the air. Mrs. Clark looked up from her desk and smiled. "Welcome," she said kindly. "Feel free to look around while you wait for the rain to stop." Daniel nodded politely but felt a little bored. He walked slowly between the shelves, glancing at the titles without much interest. Suddenly, one book caught his eye. It had a bright blue cover with a picture of a ship sailing across a stormy sea. He picked it up and opened the first page. At first he planned to read only a few lines, but the story was exciting. It was about a young sailor traveling across dangerous oceans, discovering mysterious islands, and meeting unusual people. Daniel sat down at a small table and continued reading. Minutes passed, then an hour. Daniel didn't even notice that the rain had stopped. He was completely lost in the adventure inside the book. When he finally looked up, Mrs. Clark was gently placing books back onto a shelf nearby. "Did you like the story?" she asked. Daniel smiled for the first time that day. "Yes," he said. "It's amazing. I didn't know books could be this interesting." Mrs. Clark chuckled softly. "Every book is a new world. You just need to open the door." Daniel borrowed the book and promised to return it the following week. But when he came back, he borrowed 2 more books. Soon it became a habit. After school, instead of going straight home, he visited the little library. Months passed, and Daniel read stories about explorers, scientists, inventors, and travelers. These stories inspired him to learn more about the world. His teachers noticed that he was asking more questions in class and working harder on his studies. One day Daniel asked Mrs. Clark, "Why did Mr. Hayes build this library?" She smiled and pointed to a small photo hanging on the wall. It showed a young teacher standing in front of the library many years ago. "He believed," she said, "that one book can change a life." Daniel looked around at the shelves filled with hundreds of books and realized something important. If he had not run into the library during that rainy afternoon, he might never have discovered the joy of reading. Years later, when Daniel grew up and became a teacher himself, he often remembered that small library at the end of the street. And just like Mr. Hayes before him, he believed that books had the power to open minds, inspire dreams, and quietly change the future of anyone willing to read them. Books